in Congress are slamming the Supreme Court's ruling in the birthright citizenship case. Our next guest, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin, wrote on X, eager to soothe Trump's wounded ego, the Supreme Court ended nationwide injunctions. Trump is crowing, but this just means we'll take our smashing wins in 4 district courts and turn them into wins in 94 district courts. People born here are citizens, period. Ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jamie Raskin, joins us now. Congressman, let's just start out with that tweet. Can you talk about your strategy?
Well, of course, this decision creates lots of problems for us in terms of other executive orders and other lawless actions of the administration. But in terms of the birthright citizenship case itself, we have won in 7 courts, 4 federal district courts, 2 with Republican judges, 1 Reagan and 1 Bush, 2 Democratic judges, 1 Obama and 1 Biden appointee. And then we won in 3 appeals courts. So we're batting 1,000 here on this case. The Reagan judge said this was blatantly unconstitutional. It was the most unconstitutional executive action he'd ever seen and the easiest case he'd ever had to deal with in 4 decades on the bench, right? Which is why they're running away from the merits, the substance of this decision, and the court shamefully played along with a hide-and-go-seek strategy of saying, oh, well, there's a procedural problem, which is these district courts overstepped their equitable jurisdiction. And so they reinterpreted the Judiciary Act of 1789 to say for the first time that courts could not decide beyond the literal parties to the case. And of course, that defeats the whole idea of equitable jurisdiction. Equity means you fit the remedy to the nature of the constitutional violation. And here, the violation is one that applies obviously all across the country, which every judge has seen. But so they decided to hem in the courts. On that, we're going to look at class action lawsuits, nationwide class action, because of course the government is saying, oh, well, if there's a problem, just go with a nationwide class action.
Donald Trump has a pudding brain, and it seems like no one in the mainstream media wants to address the very clear cognitive decline of our president. But he's making sure that they have to, because he continues to show the very clear signs that he is losing his mind, and his latest post on Truth Social was one of those signs, so much so that even MAGA was making fun of it. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, I want to start with someone in the mainstream media actually calling out how broken Donald Trump's brain is, and that's Lawrence O'Donnell right here.
A lot of wars there was no reason for. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War, it always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people.
History will find that there was a president of the United States who did not know that the Declaration of Independence was written and signed 85 years before the Civil War. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War always seemed, to me, maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people. That's what he said. So he looks at the Declaration of Independence on the wall, and then he thinks that the Declaration of Independence was the product of the Civil War. We've always known that Donald Trump could not possibly pass a high school AP history course. We've always known that Donald Trump couldn't pass any test in any high school history course. But now we know that he couldn't possibly have passed any history test in my 3rd grade at St. Brendan's Elementary School in Boston, in Dorchester. We knew that order of history, what came first, in the 3rd grade. Declaration of Independence first, Revolutionary War second, Civil War a distant third to those events. There are children in elementary school in America tonight who are laughing at that video that they just saw right now, especially kids on the West Coast where this show is airing early enough for them to see it. The psychiatrists promised us in the first year of the first Trump presidency that there was only one direction that his mental health could go. And every day, Donald Trump proves them right.
All the mainstream media ever wanted to talk about was Joe Biden's age. What shoes did he wear? Did he stumble over a word? And now that Donald Trump is very clearly and obviously losing it in front of us as he declares war over his social media platform with misspelled words, nobody really seems to mind. But like I said, Trump is making it glaringly obvious, and the posts that he's making are really helping us make the case. And it's an example of something that we've seen in the past, Donald Trump's inability to remember anything at this point. Now, Midas Touch made a video mocking this a little while back that I think is spot on, considering what you're going to see out of this post, and I want to check their video out first.
I think you should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Doc Ronnie Johnson, does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? He was the White House doctor. And he said I was the healthiest president he feels in history. So I liked him very much immediately. In fact, he said if I didn't eat junk food, I would live to 200. That's what he said.
We've seen this behavior from Donald Trump a lot lately, and it's been incredibly troubling, but we got it on full display when he made what I thought was an incoherent Truth Social post at first. But then I did a little bit more digging to understand it, and it only made it worse. Stick around for the ride, because it's very strange, but it starts right here. So Donald Trump, unprompted on Truth Social, writes, "Jamie, you do such a great job, so tough, so insightful, and so incredible. I watch you all the time, and you just never miss. Jamie is president. I just want to tell you this, and thank you for the incredible work you were doing. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America." Now that is a bunch of incoherent word slop. I don't know if Jamie was talking at first, if it was all addressed to Jamie, why there was a colon where the quotes, who is Jamie? Who is he talking about? Jamie Raskin? Like, that was my first. I saw Jamie and I was like, oh, he's going to attack Jamie Raskin for calling him out. And we're going to actually talk about that in a bit. But apparently he was talking about James Comar, who only goes by James. He responded. And the replies to his post just made this all ridiculous. So James Comar writes on Twitter, "Thank you, President Trump. Like I said on Fox Tonight, it's time for Congress to deliver a one big beautiful bill to the president's desk." And when you look below the replies of this post, everyone is making fun of the fact that Jaime seems to be a pet name maybe, or a nickname, or a stage name for James Comar. I'm still confused. I think he actually forgot his name. It's not Jamie. I did a little digging. I couldn't find any instance in which James Comar was called Jaime. It's not really even a nickname for you would call him Jim, right? Like, you would call him Jim Comar. His name is not Jay. So did he? For I think Trump just actually forgot his name. He called J.D. Vance, J.P. Mandel once, so I don't think it would be completely out of the realm of possibilities, but does he know anyone around him? Like, I don't hope I'm taking or think I'm taking too much out of this. It's just another example of not a Trump misspelling his name, his own name, which we saw. He didn't misspell James Comar the other day. He misspelled Donald Trump. Somehow that's where we are. But I just think he has completely lost it, unlike one Jaime who was on it and calling Donald Trump out. And that is, in fact, Jamie Raskin right here.
Well, I would certainly be preferring to live in a state that has an attorney general who will go to court to challenge and defeat unconstitutional executive actions and executive orders by the president, because, you know, if you're in Maryland, great. We know that we have an attorney general who's going to fight every step along the way. Right now, there are 199 preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders that have been set down by courts across the land against the this reign of lawlessness and authoritarianism. But you need to have an attorney general, especially after this opinion, go in to represent all of the people of the state. That's what in parens patriae means, to represent all of the people in your state behind you. But if you've got some, right-wing Republican AG in a red state who's not going to stand up for you, then you're going to have a lot of rights taken away. Rights of federal workers are going to be taken away. Medicaid rights are going to be taken away. Federal lands, you name it, environmental orders, until we can get it to the Supreme Court. But of course, what will happen is we'll be winning in federal district courts where we have AGs who are willing to bring the case, where we've got public interest groups who can do it. And the administration won't appeal the decision. They'll just say, okay, we're struck down in Maryland, we're struck down in California, or Michigan or Wisconsin, but we don't mind having it in the rest of the country. That obviously completely collides with the idea of a rule of law and a constitution that applies equally, and it's not fair to people who live in red states who still want their civil rights and civil liberties. It's basically the situation that women are in those states in terms of having their abortion rights and their reproductive freedom taken away. And so we got to make sure that people can at least travel between the states, and that the privilege and immunity of the constitutional right to travel is maintained during this horrible period.
Congressman, does it strike you as odd that the justices on the Supreme Court have essentially defanged their colleagues in lower courts by saying that they no longer have these powers to rein in illegal or unconstitutional actions that they have historically had, and have utilized not only against Donald Trump, but against Democratic presidents and all sorts of parties? Why do you think it is, I guess, that the Supreme Court has decided to neutralize the power of the judiciary branch?
Well, they're acting to appease Donald Trump's wounded ego. All of his fragile feelings about being struck down on the birthright citizenship order in 7 different courts, 4 district and 3 appellate courts. And so they've decided to snatch the power away, the power of equity, which is all about giving the courts the power they need in order to vindicate the rights of the people. And, the majority opinion by Justice Barrett, I think, didn't recognize what equity actually is. It's allowing the courts to adjust the remedy to the nature of the constitutional violation. So they really put the cart before the horse, and they said, oh, well, we think, these judges are getting too big for their britches here, when, nobody has argued with the substance of any of their rulings and the logic of any of their rulings. It's like my MAGA colleagues in Congress who are saying, we're going to impeach those judges. We're going to impeach Judge Boasberg, who was appointed first to the bench by President Bush. We're going to impeach him. This guy was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale Law School. We're going to impeach him because he said turn the planes around and give due process to people before they're shipped off to a torturer's prison in El Salvador. They're talking about impeaching judges because they don't like their opinions. The only judges that have ever been impeached in American history, there are only 15 of them, have been impeached for bribery and income tax evasion and kickbacks and political corruption. Now they want to impeach judges for having rendered the correct decision, the incontrovertibly correct decision about all these cases. But they don't want to talk about the merits. They just want to make it more difficult for people to get justice in America.
Congressman, let me ask you really quickly, if I can, before we go, about the startling development last night. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, firing 3 federal prosecutors who worked on the January 6 investigations and trying to hold people accountable for that attempted insurrection. Your thoughts on that development, as someone who has also worked on trying to hold people accountable for January 6, how worried are you about the message this sends to federal prosecutors and to the rule of law in this country?
Well, it's par for the course with this gangster state administration. They fired more than a dozen very experienced senior federal criminal prosecutors just because they had worked on the January 6th case. And they get assigned to work on the case, but it's like they're contaminated because they actually held people to account for violently assaulting police officers and storming the Capitol and threatening to topple a presidential election in America. It's all part of Donald Trump's fanatical determination to rewrite the history of the 2020 election, which he lost by more than 7 million votes to Joe Biden, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College. And he won in 2024 by 2 million votes, right? And that's supposed to be some kind of sweeping mandate that everybody has to bow down to, and we can't disagree with him. He got beaten by 7 million votes. He didn't even accept the validity and legitimacy of the victory itself. For 4 years, he went around saying it didn't happen, and he continues to lie about it and continue to ruin people's careers because they did their jobs in holding the violent insurrectionists that he incited to account for their crimes.
Donald Trump wants our country to be a lot like his brain, broken and falling apart to the benefit of the rich donors that surround him. That's what he wants, whether he knows it or not. With that lump of pudding in his head, no one can tell. But we do know that we need to fight back against these attacks. Jamie Raskin is doing it. We got to do it as well. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you soon.